Hello again, I'm Doug Smith. Welcome to the 22nd of September 2017 edition of Portsmouth This Week. Our special guest today is Mark DePasquale, the owner of Wind Energy Development, the company that owns and operates our Portsmouth wind turbine. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I wonder if you could give us a little background on yourself before we get into the turbine and its operation.
So I started in a family business with my father in construction, building houses in North Providence. And from there I expanded and started building big public buildings, Barrington Public Safety Complex. So I was in construction and we moved a lot of earth. And the interesting thing is my youngest daughter, Olivia, which is graduating high school this year, every time we would start a new project and we would clear a big area of land, 10, 20, 30 acres, she would not speak to me for 2 months. So a gentleman from Narragansett, Newport area actually brought it to me and says, you know, you should build some wind turbines. There's a lot of incentives. There's a nice program, and I think it would fit to offset your daughter, how she's feeling. So with that, I went off and I started permitting turbines in North Kingstown and Exeter and around the state. And we built our first turbine in 2006 in North Kingstown in my front yard. And it was a long journey to get to it. After I was done, I was excited, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to fight for the next 20 years and build multiple more. But we did, and I'm very happy that we went in that direction.
Now, is your daughter speaking to you now?
My daughter is speaking to me now. We talk a little bit different now. We talk about the equipment running and building and the cranes, and but we're offsetting so much with the wind. There's got to be a balance.
Sure.
In renewable and to change our dependency on fossil fuels. So she likes it a lot more now. Yes,
well,
she does.
Kudos to your daughter, because we need people to step up and get people interested in this kind of stuff. So she did a great thing. I'm glad it worked out for you.
Thank you.
You own and operate several wind turbines in Rhode Island, I know. Was Portsmouth the first, and where are the other ones?
So Portsmouth wasn't the first. So North Kingstown in my front yard again was the first one. And then we built 9 of them in Coventry. After that 9th, the 10th turbine that belonged in Coventry, because it was so important to me to get Portsmouth's turbine, I took Wed Coventry 5 and moved it to Portsmouth and built Portsmouth's turbine. And after that, earlier this year, we got the 11th turbine in and delivered that one. We delivered Portsmouth's turbine, actually to Coventry. So it was a good marriage. Everybody went online the same time last year. And so we have 10 of them in Coventry that I managed, the one in Portsmouth, and the one in North Kingstown.
Okay, now I think most people understand generally how these things work, but I wonder if you could talk about how does it somehow translate wind energy into electricity?
It's really simple. We're taking one source of energy, which is the wind, and we're capturing it with the blades. And by capturing that wind, we're turning our generator, our permanent magnet generator, and converting one type of energy that's a natural energy into with a clean source into electric. It's very, very easy. It's been going on for hundreds of years, and grinding corn years ago, and it's very easy technology.
Yeah, it's an old technology. It's like locks on the canals and things. Those are ancient history stuff, and they still work. Well, our site up there has a history, as you know. We had a previous wind turbine put up there by the North American dealer for Furlander wind turbines, and it had, as we were talking about before, a gearbox problem. What made you decide to build a new one on the same site, and what did you do with the old turbine?
So the town put out a RFP to repair it. A good friend of mine, Seth Handy, was working with the town, and they were really looking at repairing the turbine. After I made my initial evaluation and climbed it and looked at it, I felt that we could have repaired it, but with the gearbox and that type of technology, we'd probably be running into the same situations in 3 to 6 years after. And the turbine manufacturer out of Canada that created it, there really wasn't enough spare gearboxes. There was 2 of them. They were halfway across the United States, and we would have had to take the whole turbine down anyways.
Yeah, which is a major operation.
Which is a major operation. Ship the gearbox and then the cell across the United States, have them refabricate it, bring it back and set it up. So, and looking at it and looking at all the other components, I felt that the best thing would be to put the newer technology on the site, and that set me off on the direction that I gave a proposal to the town to remove the turbine and give them something different.
Now, is this one, the new one, does it use any parts from the old one, or is it all totally new?
Nope. We disassembled, actually, when we disassembled the old turbine, we took the blades and we sold them to an energy facility in Massachusetts. Some of the miscellaneous components were salvaged, and then the rest of it was just scrapped. We did it in a shorter time, so there was some excess money, which we donated to the Parks Department that went to one of their projects. And then everybody asked us about the foundation, and it's really the base of our construction always starts at the foundation. Sure. So I decided the type of foundation that is out there was an anchor-driven foundation, that earth anchors. So I said, let's remove it, because I looked at the geotech reports. And we removed the whole foundation, which I'm glad I did. Got down to a very stable ground, which was a shaly ledge, and started fresh. So there is nothing on that site that was existing from before.
But it is the same site?
It is absolutely the same site.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm interested in that is that I was the FAA guy on our committee to try to put this thing together, finding a site.
Yeah.
You've got a new kind of turbine too, so and I think it's higher than our old one, and I also think it's got a different kind of gears or whatever, or no gears.
Yes.
Could you explain some of that?
Yes. So, important thing when you're siting a turbine is you want to make sure that the certifications are proper. So, Turnok is a large company in Germany that they do testing on all turbines. So I went to the town and I said, you know, I can build the same exact height and the same exact blade, but it's not really a certified turbine. I want to have a 10-year warranty on this turbine. So what I would like to do is put an 85-meter tower up and an 82-meter rotor diameter. It is a little bit higher, which was acceptable for the FAA, but it's a certified assembly. So from the foundation all the way to the top, everything was certified. So that's what changed a little bit. And then when we looked at the site, we adjusted the turbine a little bit more to the coordinates of the FAA and looked at the surrounding neighbors. The technology of our turbine is really interesting. So Vensis, which holds the license of the technology, they're a technical-based manufacturer. They build custom turbines. They don't build a lot of them every year, but they sold their license to Goldwyn and multiple people around the world. So it's actually the largest built technology in the world right now. They set out to remove every component that breaks in everybody else's turbine. So the first thing they looked at is said, let's get rid of the gearbox. What can we do?
Yeah, this is in the design phase.
In the design phase. This is 15 years ago.
Sure.
12, 15 years ago. So they said, we want to get rid of the gearboxes because everybody's changing gearboxes. And they last 6, 8, 10, but it's something that you always got to expect to change. So they removed the gearbox totally and they designed a permanent magnet generator, which is really a bunch of magnets that are about 3 inches by 2 inches thick by 6 inches, and they're put in, I'll call it like a beehive, that's, you know, a round beehive, and they're all siliconed in together. And then, and they've adjusted them a little bit to make it even quieter. And then the steel actually passes over the magnets and creates the energy. So we just eliminated drive shafts, gearboxes, oil in the tower. If you actually go into the tower, the only liquid in the tower is about 3 gallons of hydraulic fluid for the brakes and a 5-gallon bucket that automatically greases it every day. The next thing they changed was they took all the components, the converters and the SCADA system and everything, and they brought it to the bottom. So most technology, the one that was there, had all that equipment up top.
Right.
So when you have to go in to service it, you're at the top of the turbine. If the wind was too high, you can't go in and reset. So, you know, that was new technology. So if you have a fault, it's very easy to change something out. And then they went, which I think is really interesting, the blades. So blades run, they're 18,000 pounds, each one of our blades in Portsmouth. And most blades run on gears, and they pitch in and out, just like a bird will with their wings to capture the most energy. And the blades, the gearboxing for the blades after a while would actually wear out. So you would need to bring a crane in and remove the blade, put a new gear on the blade and reset it or replace them. Well, they went just like a truck or your car, and they went and designed these big straps that go right around the base of the blade, go in with a pulley system. So if we lose a strap, it's $800 for a strap and 3 hours to replace it. So that was another great part of their technology.
And you can replace it right on site.
Right on site, no equipment, nothing. There's a hoist inside the tower. There's an elevator inside the tower. We bring the component to the top, we change them, we stock. Ventus actually has their United States maintenance office in North Kingstown. So we stock
great.
all the components that we need for our turbines are stocked in North Kingstown. So very, very easy. And then our smart converter is very, very high tech, how we switch over the energy. So they basically created this turbine and took out almost everything that could fail and changed it to a turbine that we only maintain very few times.
Yeah, I would think that would kind of become the industry standard, something like that. If it makes a lot of sense.
It is. There's other. I spend a lot of time in Germany. I'm really trying to learn more and more about the technology, and the permanent magnet, removing the gearboxes, is really the future. A lot of big organizations are still using gearboxes. There's a lot of them out there. But if you go into other countries, they're doing repowering, which will happen here in 15 years, where you start changing to newer technology. But there are still a lot of very good turbines out that have gearboxes and have gear-driven blades. But it was interesting when I picked the North Kingstown turbine, which is Goldwyn. The Bay Commission came out at the same time, and we both, after research, and picked the exact same turbines.
Wow.
So it was made us both realize that we did
made
our
you feel
homework.
better. Yeah.
It did.
Now the thing is, when you're running that thing around magnets, you're essentially producing direct current.
Yes.
And how is that converted to AC?
So-
I assume it is before it goes on. It has to go to the grid, right?
We actually are we're delivering AC about probably about 400 volts, 400 to 600 volts of AC up at the generator. But the type of power we're entering is so the wind blows fast and soft, so we bring it down the tower in AC, and then we put it into our smart converter, and we decouple and change it over to DC for a very short period of time, and we really clean it. And then once we change it over to DC, we clean it, we deliver it back into AC, and send it to our transformers at different voltages depending on what the grid is requiring on the interconnection. So that is part of their technology.
So this is all done kind of on the ground somewhere.
It's all done on
Is
the
it
ground.
inside the
In the base of the tower, you have your converters, and you have your SCADA system and all your equipment down at the base, and we bring it down. The decoupling is a very important part of this technology because we take the generator and we separate it from the transformer, the grid. So there's really like the power's jumping through, and we can deliver very, very clean, dependable power to the grid, so they don't have any issues on their end.
Yeah. It's all sounds fascinating because I don't remember hearing about this technology 10 years ago. And
it's actually, it's newer technology. They've built a bunch of them in Germany. We have 11 in Rhode Island. We're actually right in the process of starting construction this month for 7 more in Johnson at 3 megawatts. Same exact technology, same exact manufacturer.
Now you mentioned SCADA. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but as I recall, we used to be able to we used to get a signal, internet signal, and you could look at this on your computer at work. And I would imagine you have a place where you can see all of these things somewhere, right?
We do. So in North Kingstown at our office on Quaker Lane, Ventus actually committed to be our partner in the United States. They set up their global office in Rhode Island, and we have TV screens that watch every one of our turbines. We know what they're running, we know their temperature, we know what each turbine's producing across all of the United States and all of Canada. So all the Ventus turbines we're monitoring all simultaneously. My iPhone this morning with the wind and everything has probably 35 emails to me, just alerts and alerts. So the SCADA system tells us and delivers it to our office and delivers it to each one of us, so we know if there's a fault or a gust or a wind alert. So we're monitoring them 24 hours a day.
That's quite a job in its own right, I would think, just keeping track of all this stuff.
It is. When we're sleeping, they're watching them in Germany. When Germany's sleeping, we're watching them. So all the turbines are actually all tied in together.
Yeah.
So we're all watching. The turbine is always being watched, and the minute, so everything's green. If yellow could be a grid issue, red means we have a fault. We have no power.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at 100 turbines, it's very quickly to pick out 2 or 3 red spots.
Now what happens when, like, we've had very gusty winds here, gusts up to 50 knots.
Yeah.
What happens when you get, do you have a maximum limit that the thing will either shut down or feather or something?
Yeah, so we feather, and so our wind is very bumpy. So we have a lot of turbulence. We have a lot of shear.
That was always an issue.
It was always an issue. Portsmouth is a real nice site. Going that little bit higher helps us, but our blades are continuously turning in and out of the wind. We never lock the turbine down, so if we get into heavy winds, the turbine just shuts down, we disconnect from the grid, and then we just turn very slowly. So if we were in a storm and we had 120-mile-an-hour winds, you would see the turbine turning, the blades flex, and it would just turn very, very slowly, and it turns completely out of the wind.
How often do you have to do maintenance on this?
So scheduled maintenance is every 6 months. The turbine greases itself.
That's it? Every 6 months?
Every 6 months. We go in every 6 months. I mean, we're in, because we have such a large staff in North Kingstown, and Ventus has 6 technicians, we're in our turbines a lot. We're cleaning them.
Sure.
The guys are looking to do, we got other projects. But really, every 6 months is all it needs. We check all the bolts. We check 10% of the bolts. If one bolt doesn't meet the torque ratio that it has to be, it's about 4,500 foot-pounds per inch, we will immediately check every bolt in the turbine. That's a ladder and a bracket. We check the wire. We make sure the hydraulic fluid for the brakes are in. But the maintenance on the turbines is very minimal. It's, so it's twice a year.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's the kind of maintenance you want to have. Yeah. Where were the components of this system made? Were they made in the U.S.?
Nope. So Ventus has again a shop just right outside of Frankfurt, Germany. So the generators, then the cells, the towers are actually built outside of Hamburg. So all of our equipment came from Germany. Our blades are LM blades, and we have some blades that came from South Dakota. Sometimes we get our blades from Germany, China. All our blades for 10 of the turbines came out of China, LM's factory, because they had them. They make them, so there's different cycles. But most of the components for this turbine were made in Germany.
Now, how long did it take you to get this new turbine up, when all the parts and everything was taken down from the old one?
So took us about 10 days to put the foundation in completely, make
Right.
sure the geotech and everything was there, and we backfilled it. And that's with the electrical work we did. The actual erection of the new turbine, I think we did it in less than 16 hours. It was a 2-day process to put it up.
Yeah.
We did 10 turbines, and we basically did it in the 10 turbines we did in 18 days from Coventry and
Wow.
Portsmouth.
That's great.
The moving them across the state and moving them, escorts from Quonset, so they all came in ships at Quonset at Davidsville,
Right.
and moving them was probably the hottest challenge.
Now, how did
for us.
you bring them in through Newport, or?
We actually did. We did a bunch of engineering, and we got permits, and we actually shut down the Newport and Jamestown Bridge with police escorts, and all 3 sections of towers went right over the bridge.
Okay, yeah.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, and I walked pretty much from North Kingstown to Portsmouth that night.
Yeah, I bet.
And then when we got them to the high school, the tower sections were much longer than the other sections because there's only 3 of them. And we backed it up the road to the high school, and at 7:15 in the morning, your turbine was there.
Wow, that's fantastic. I would have liked to have seen that. I was there every day when we put the old one up.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of scheduling problems. They had these gigantic cranes there for days at a time, which is probably one of the reasons they eventually went bankrupt.
Yeah.
But it's a major process, and so I think that's great you got it up so fast. How much power do you produce, and have you met your kind of requirements here? Do you think your expectations?
So last year, our first year out was actually a good win year. We estimated that we were going to do about 4.2 million kilowatt hours a year. The turbine actually produced 5 million kilowatts.
Wow.
We designed it originally that the town consumes about 3.8 million. So the other 1.2 million is actually being net metered to Coventry, to their component. And this year we're actually signing within the next 4 weeks with another state agency to put 1.2 million kilowatts to them to break it up, because Portsmouth actually did a great project and lowered their consumption with energy efficiency and everything. So they're burning about 3 million, 3.2 million, so there's excess power there.
Okay, now does Portsmouth get a special price for that electricity?
Portsmouth is pretty much paying the electric rate. We came in and paid off the debt and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And once
Thank
we
you
meet,
for that, by the way.
You're welcome. I was happy. I'm happy to see the turbine turning. So it was a very important process for us. But they have a rate. They're paying pretty much what they would be paying with the grid. Once we hit our threshold, which with the extra production, I think we're going to hit it a lot sooner, then their electric rates will drop down. But the people in Portsmouth, we paid off their debt and everything. So I think for the town, it's a good plan. And
Absolutely.
they were the pioneers. I mean, it was the first 1.5 megawatt turbine built in Rhode Island, and I respect the town very much for building it.
There are perils being first, though.
Yes, there is.
As we found out. One of the issues that people, we went through all this with ours as well. People had problems with noise, worried about bird kill, they worry about flicker, which flicker can be an issue. I can understand that. I remember taking somebody up to see our wind turbine one time. We used to take people up to show it to them. And the guy claimed he was getting ill from being so near. And, a lot of this stuff has kind of been debunked in many cases. But have you had any kind of problems with this? And how do you mitigate this with the local homeowners?
So you mentioned FAA. When we cited it, first off, our turbines, when we negotiated with the town, we said we will not exceed any of the decibel or flicker that you have right now. We're actually going to be better, but we will not exceed it. I made an adjustment to the turbine, which was exactly the FAA approval, which changed the flicker. The tower actually curves in. So our turbine, without the gearbox and the shape of our tower, it's very sleek as it goes up. It gives more space between the blade and the tower. So they're not getting that woofing sound that they were having before. Sure. We have not got any complaints on the turbine. Anytime we had, there was a few people very concerned about it, but since we've been up and running, we haven't got any complaints. The last few days with this heavy wind, the turbines might seem like they're louder, but with this storm that's off the ocean and what's happening, they might be a little bit louder, but if you actually check the decibel level, we're not. The flicker is to the north. A lot of growth has happened, so a lot of people aren't getting the impact that they were having 3 years ago, or 5 years ago now. So we mitigate that and we pay attention, but if there's a complaint, we immediately go down and we'll talk to somebody. We haven't had really, the couple of people at the beginning was it. But
Yeah.
if there was a problem and somebody had a problem, they would call the town would contact me, and I would personally go visit with them and see what's going on.
Well, I thought it was great that when you guys started this thing, and this shows how professional this operation is, that you actually had a policy of, please come to us with any complaints and we'll fix them. That was, I think that's really good. It should have helped a lot of people get over some of this stuff. We're getting down, we're almost out of time, we're a little over a minute. One of the key problems with wind energy as well as solar energy is, it's intermittent.
Yeah.
Are you involved in looking for some kind of storage thing or something like that? What do you think we could do about that?
So it's interesting. We just rebranded, actually, so we are green development now. We are working on 12 megawatts of solar going in right now. We're working on battery storage. We just brought a new CEO in that's been in the business for 30 years. We are looking at a few sites for battery storage that we'll probably be talking about in the next 6 to 8 weeks. We'll be giving a press release on that. But we are looking at battery storage on our sites. And anaerobic digestion, there's a lot of different technologies, so we've actually moved a little bit out of just
in terms
wind.
of the storage media, yeah.
Yep. So we are looking forward to the future.
Well, that's great. I wonder if you have any suggestions for our state to help out with this. Is there anything you'd like to see in the last 30 seconds we have here?
I think the state has put the best program together for renewable. I think we need to have a mixture of different types of technology, and the state really needs to educate all the municipalities and come up with some type of siting guidelines that everything is mixed, sited properly, and you get a little bit of hydro, wind, solar. We need a mixture of everything, and I think the state has done a great job.
Okay. Mark, thanks so much for coming in today. I really enjoyed your explanation of all this, and we'll see you all next time on Portsmouth This Week. Hi, I'm Doug Smith. I'd just like to remind everyone that the Portsmouth Historical Society is having our annual Harvest Social at Greenville Vineyards on Thursday, September 28th from 5:30 to 7:30. It's a great opportunity to come down, have a couple glasses of Greenville's great wine, chat with your neighbors, and also meet some Historical Society board members. And you can tell them what kind of things you'd like to see the Historical Society doing in the future. Thanks very much.